Tonight, the province's opposition parties are raising concern about government's handling of unclaimed bodies.
Their solution is to let's put the money into hiding it as opposed to solving it.
The NDP leader says he's appalled at the decision to move 4 freezer units housing an undisclosed number of bodies.
We've been seeing a lot more people coming through our doors. People that once might have been donors are now the ones that are asking for help.
The rising cost of living is leaving one food bank struggling to keep up, while even the cost of making a pot of stew is becoming unmanageable for some families.
It's a bit of a mystery because they've heard about it all these years. They've seen pictures, but they've never been inside the door.
Didn't think we were allowed on them grounds. I thought it was a sacred ground sort of thing, right? Growing up.
This historic home puts the Grand in Grand Falls, Windsor. Many longtime residents have never set foot inside until now.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Well, it's a case of out of sight, out of mind. That's according to the PCs and NDP. Both parties say government is doing nothing to address how the province's largest hospital is handling unclaimed bodies. Now, this is a story that we've been following since March, back when we learned dozens of cadavers were being stored in freezer units outside the Health Sciences Centre in St. John's. The identities of some of the bodies are unknown. Other bodies have been left behind by family members who can't afford burial costs. This week, we learned those bodies had been moved inside to an underground parking garage. The opposition's health critic says money used to buy more freezers would have been better spent on burials.
They deserve a dignified burial, and that sums it up perfectly to me. So we spent over $200,000 to move those containers and create a new morgue in the basement, yet the bodies are still there. And the bodies will probably be there for a long time because a lot of them don't have families, and the ones that can't afford to bury them, I mean, maybe you should have used some of the resources to provide a dignified burial to these people instead of spending it to hide. But in my mind, remove the bodies from public sight. So, it's all around, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's something that I think government needs to think outside the box and do something about this, because we've not gone on further ahead. Again, you've moved the problem.
Take up blue zones that will be used by people, by expectant mothers and maybe people who had been living with disabilities. Put up a wall around that. Make it even less accessible. To me, it tells that the government is more focused on hiding the problem and covering up the problem than solving the problem.
Well, Memorial University's medical school will soon be accepting more students. The medical school in St. John's will take on 5 more students this fall, and that will bring the total number to 85. Right now, the vast majority of those seats are reserved for students from this province. The provincial government says it believes training more doctors here will help to address the province's shortage. A food bank in Carbonear says the number of people who need their support is rising. With the cost of living climbing, one staff member at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank says some people who might have once been donors are now asking for help for themselves. The CBC's Daryl Roberts paid a visit to the food bank to find out more about how the demand has changed over the past year.
Okay, so it's been a year since I've been here. What have you seen here at the food bank in Carbonear over the past year?
It's definitely been a difficult year. I've been here, this is like my 4th year that I'm going into now, and I would say this has been like the toughest year that we've had so far, at least in my time. Demand for food has gone up a lot. Obviously, we're all kind of experiencing increased costs at the grocery store and everything. So we've been seeing a lot more people coming through our doors. People that once might have been donors are now the ones that are asking for help. And donations have kind of dwindled, especially this time of year as we enter the warmer months. Usually the holiday season is when everybody comes out to donate. And then that gets us through up until summer, but now our stocks are kind of dwindling. So we're trying to find ways to bolster that and get more donations in the building.
How do you do that? How do you bolster that?
So we try to promote ourselves as much as possible, and we're very fortunate to have an amazing community around us that supports us so much. And we've also had other great community partners that have reached out. There's been some local churches that are doing like initiatives that have been bringing in a lot of donations and stuff. So we're really thankful that the community is here to support us.
We'll have more on the struggle to feed a family later in the show as a mom shares the difficult decisions that come along with higher prices at the grocery store. That's in about 25 minutes on Here and Now. The MHA for Conception Bay South says he's ready for some competition should Liberal MP Ken McDonald attempt to win his provincial seat.
If Ken McDonald is not Ken, it'll be someone else. So I'm not going to get this by acclamation, as much as that would be a real joy to run for a provincial election and not be challenged. I mean, I certainly expect to be challenged. Whether it's Ken McDonald or someone else, that's fine. That's the decision Ken has to make. And I'm ready to run for re-election, to fight for a seat.
Barry Penton has held that seat for the PC since 2015. It's unknown when the next provincial election might be called. Yesterday, during an interview with CBC's Power in Politics, MP Ken McDonald said he's walking away from federal politics, but he didn't rule out a shot at provincial politics. He says he has been asked, and he would likely seek election in his home district of Conception Bay South.
I haven't given a definite yes yet, and I haven't given a definite no. I've been asked, and most people already know that, and the Prime Minister knows that as well. And but I haven't given a definite yes. Of course, it depends largely on when the next provincial election will be, and where I would be asked to run, I don't know. It probably will be in my home riding or home district of Conception Bay South, but if it is, so be it. And if I put my name forward, I'll work hard as I did as a federal MP to get elected. I'll do the same to try and get elected provincially if that's the path I choose.
Well, the sky's definitely a little brighter today for parts of the province. We saw lots of sunshine through areas of central, and that front that brought us all of that rain for the past couple of days is slowly edging its way offshore. Actually, in fact, the sun is starting to come out now. We do have lots of more cloud cover moving in up across Labrador. Some more showers expected as well. But if we take a look at the temperatures today, boy, was it warm. 31 degrees in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Cartwright hovering around 29 this afternoon. Actually, most areas across the island we're seeing temperatures quite warm, with the exception of Port aux Basques, St. John's into the teens. We do have lots more heat in behind that, but as we head through the next couple of days, we're going to start to see a bit of a cool down. Temperatures still right around where they should be for this time of year, especially up across Labrador. Parts of Central still going to see some warm air as we head through the week. The trend will be to warm up, though. We'll finally start to see some warmth for the Avalon. We've been stuck in the teens for the past couple of days. That will be the story through the weekend. And into next week, it looks a lot warmer as well, especially up across parts of Labrador. I'll get into all the forecast details coming up.
It's getting slimy now. The water, I guess, is getting right warm. The water is warm in the Gulf. It's getting warmer every year, so you get a lot of slime on the traps late in the season, right? You see the slime in that downtown.
How's the lobster fishery been over the last couple of years?
Been good, boy. Everybody's reporting good catch rates and everything, so has been coming up really good in this area. We've done well, and every year it seems like it gets better.
Well, CBC Radio's The Broadcast has hit the road and boarded a boat. Paula Gale and Todd O'Brien are broadcasting from Port aux Choix this week as the community gears up for Friday's annual Cod Festival. They ventured out on the water with lobster fisherman Larry Plowman, who uses wooden pots from PEI to bring in his catch. You can download the CBC Listen app to hear more from Port aux Choix or tune in to CBC Radio. Well, a grand historic home in Grand Falls, Windsor is opening its doors to the public, and residents are lining up for the chance to finally see inside. Grand Falls House welcomed hundreds of dignitaries in its heyday. Here Now's Troy Turner brings us this special report.
It's a hot ticket in Grand Falls, Windsor. Some lined up for hours, all for a chance to see this, Grand Falls House.
It was a living, breathing household for people at one point in time, but then it became more for guests of the mill, guests of the Harmsworth, the business people they did business with, premiers who had come across, lieutenant governors. So for general people in Grand Falls, Windsor, they didn't have access to the house unless they were invited for a party.
Next month, 250 people will get their chance to see the house.
All my life, I could see it from a distance. We were never allowed up there. And when I seen it advertised on the site, the Grand Falls site, I really wanted to go. So here I am today, waiting in line, or I did wait in line. I have my tickets, and just anxiously waiting to be able to get in to see what everybody's talking about.
Well, when I was growing up, when I'm walking back and forth to the towns, I just didn't think we were allowed on them grounds. I thought it was a sacred ground sort of thing, right? Growing up. So I just didn't bother to go there. We passed the line by it many hundreds of times. You know, just didn't go there.
Before I was born, my mom and dad were caretakers at Grand Falls House. My dad's George Piercy, he passed in 2019. My mom's Elizabeth Piercy, and she's still living. And we lived in the Grand Falls House till I was 11, myself and my two brothers. And then we moved, and Mom and Dad bought their own house, and we moved on. So, but they still continued to work there for over 30 years.
Peggy Saunders was given a sneak peek of the house.
This area is where we live. We used this dining area. So this was our living room here. Yeah, this was home. Yeah. Yeah, brings back a lot of the memories.
Grand Falls House was built in 1909 by Alfred Harmsworth, owner of the town's mill. It was designed by British architect Robert Douglas Wells. The house was maintained by the various owners of the pulp and paper mill before being expropriated to the province in 2009. It was turned over to the town of Grand Falls, Windsor after that.
My complaint always was there's people dying in this town every year who never had the chance to get in the doors, and we want people to get in the doors of the Grand Falls House. It's a bit of a mystery because they've heard about it all these years, they've seen pictures, but they've never been inside the doors. We're giving them the opportunity to get inside the doors.
Public tours are scheduled for Friday, July 12th. Now, while there are no more plans to offer tours again in the immediate future, the committee overseeing this historic property hopes down the road there will be more public access and more people offered a chance to take a glimpse inside. Troy Turner, CBC News, Grand Falls, Windsor.
Well, right now, tennis fans in St. John's are getting to see a rare sight, the Billie Jean King Cup. The tennis trophy is awarded to the top women's team in the world, and in 2023, it was Canada for the first time ever. Now, to celebrate the milestone, Tennis Canada took the cup across the country with a stop in Mount Pearl last night, and tonight at Riverdale in St. John's. Earlier this afternoon, Tennis NL gave us a sneak peek.
I love that. Today we're fortunate to get the Billie Jean King Cup. It's doing a tour across the country because Canada won the women's team tennis, which is the equivalent to the Davis Cup. It's an honor to be able to have a cup go across the nation. It's gone from BC to Newfoundland and Labrador, and today's the last day of the tour. I think it's great because it gives the opportunity and the realization that growing up in Canada, you can play at a level against players across the globe. It isn't just, particular sports. Now tennis is also one where we're on the world stage. And growing up in Newfoundland and Labrador, we're very fortunate that the Canada Games is coming next year. We have a great new facility here at Riverdale Tennis Club, and then as well, our green belt, the Dome, is coming in. So the opportunity to have players play year-round to get to that elite level, and the fact that they get inspired by our national tennis players, I think it will do well for us across the province to get people to play more tennis and younger people to play at a high level. We're doing really well at the club in terms of getting a lot of the younger kids starting at age 3 all the way into teenage years. The number of people that are playing tennis has increased and in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think for us, the next generation of tennis players that we're going to have is going to be great, and having the cup here today will hopefully inspire some of them to make this their part of their dream.
Well, it was a beautiful summer day in Corner Brook, where Margaret Bowater Park was packed with children getting a break from this heat. It was 26 degrees today, feeling more like 28 with the humidity, not a cloud in the sky. Most spent their afternoon enjoying some snacks in the shade or running through the splash pad, while others cooled off in the pool.
Whether you're looking to spruce up your garden or start from scratch, today on Get Growing, we'll speak with an expert in garden design here at Botanical Garden. Ashley, before the break, we saw what a stunning day it was in Corner Brook today. Not so much here in the east, a little bit cooler, but certainly better than yesterday.
Yes, at least it was dry today. It took a little longer for those skies to clear, but let's take a look at what it looks like outside right now. Finally starting to clear. Still only sitting around 16 degrees. Typically around this time of year, we're sitting around 19 degrees, but we've got those easterly winds around 15 kilometers per hour. But boy, was it rainy for the first start of July. Now, I mentioned yesterday that we broke a record in St. John's for the rainiest June. And we started off wet as well across a good chunk of eastern Newfoundland. Deer Park picked up 95.3 millimeters of rain, Brigus 79, Bay Roberts 72, and in St. John's 56.4 millimeters of rain. Just to put that into perspective, that is half of what we normally see in July. We typically see about 100 millimeters. So in the first 3 days, well, really yesterday, but the first 3 days of July, we've already picked up half of that. So the good news is, though, as we head through the next couple of days, really through Friday, we'll start to turn a corner and those temperatures will get back to where we should be sitting for this time of year. So taking a look at the current satellite and radar, just some cloud cover and some showers happening up across parts of Labrador at the moment. And that cloud cover for the east slowly edging offshore. If you haven't seen the sun yet, you will over the next hour or so for most of the Avalon. And it'll stay fairly quiet as we head through tonight. Our temperatures today, very warm, 31 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay today, 28 Mary's Harbor. If you take a look at the temperatures across the island as well, Badger topped out at 30 this afternoon, Gander at 27, and Twillingate sat around 24 degrees. Now we're still hanging on to some of that cool air, no surprise, for at least Cape Race, 12 degrees today thanks to onshore flow, and 16 in St. John's. Now there's a tad bit of humidity in the air depending on where you are. Feels more like 26 in Terra Nova. Gander feels more like 30. And as we head through the next couple of days, we're gonna start to see some of that humidity creep back up, especially as we head into the weekend. That will coincide with some warmer temperatures as well. But things will start to feel a bit muggy as we head into Saturday, even a bit more on the humid side as we head into Sunday. And that will really continue as we head into next week. Now, as far as what's going to go on tonight, not a whole lot, just some showers working their way across Lab West through central Labrador as we get through the overnight period. Most of the island will be clear, but you'll see some clouds on the increase, though, for the west coast and then through central as we get into tomorrow morning. Overall, temperatures will be in the teens, 13 to 17 degrees for most of the island, with the exception of the Avalon, eastern Newfoundland tonight. Hovering around 9 degrees. And temperatures across Labrador mild as well. Happy Valley Goose Bay at 17 overnight tonight. Winds out of the south, that southerly flow bringing that nice warm air in, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. But Cartwright, your overnight low will be at 18 degrees. That's where you should be sitting for your daytime highs for this time of year. Tomorrow morning, generally rainy for most of Labrador. In fact, we'll see some thunderstorm activity develop, it looks like, by the afternoon for Lab West. You can see that kind of showing up there on the future tracker, some of the heavier showers that could spark some lightning tomorrow. Likely for Lab West, I think the risk of thunder should be a lot less as you head towards central Labrador tomorrow evening. And then overall, a cloudy day tomorrow across the island. Just the chance of some peaks of sun, though, certainly still in the mix, and then some showers late day for the Avalon. Again, we're going to hang on to cool temperatures tomorrow. One more day of that, generally into the teens, 13 to 19 degrees for eastern Newfoundland, and cooler across the island as well. Still beautiful, though, 20 to 24 degrees. Onshore flow, though, for the south coast means your temperatures will be cooler, and again, that potential for some showers. As far as Labrador goes, your temperatures will be cooler as well, a little bit more comfortable, 24 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, 21 in Lab City. Again, that risk of some thunderstorms. It's also going to be brisk winds tomorrow. Those southwesterlies will be hanging around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour as well. A bit of a cool down for some areas. Others are going to see nice warm temperatures through the weekend. I'll get into all of that coming up.
Well, you know a beautiful garden when you see one, but how do you decide what to plant where? Well, today on Get Growing, we have an expert in garden design who has a great eye and a green thumb.
So hi, my name is Megan McCarthy. I'm an assistant horticulturist here at the Memorial University Botanical Garden.
Okay, Megan, you have such a great thing growing here, but for anyone who's looking to design or redesign their garden, what should they keep in mind?
Yes, so most of the time people want to do that for 3 reasons. So either something aesthetically isn't working, so you just don't like what you're looking at. Another reason would be that the function is off. So, I need to be able to bring my snowblower from, A to B, and I can't get through because there's a tree or there's steps or whatever. And then there's also the ecological side. So I would love to grow veggies, but I have deep shade. If we are realistic in all those things, then we can make a great plan for a place that really works for us.
Well, we're here at the garden, so can you show us some examples of what you're talking about?
Yeah, so just like in our house, each room has a function, and it also has like a tone that we want to create, right? So we're using like the outdoor room concept. We want to consider the ceilings, the walls, and the floors, just like you would in your house. So for here, if you start with the ceiling, we have this beautiful golden chain tree, we have this kiwi and arbors that kind of are cozy. Again, if you want to be feeling very like the joy of nature, you feel very much in nature when you're under a canopy. For me, the biggest design tip that I use all the time is always to plan in odd numbers. So there's something in our brains that love odd numbers. So this is a great example. So this is Blue Bayou Salvia. There's 5 of them here, and the bees love it. And so this bed too has great examples of the principles of design. So a balance between variety and simplicity. So in here we have, quite a few different types of plants, but not so many that you get overwhelmed, but enough that you're kept interested. There's a lot of elements in art that we use in design. So for example, contrast as well. So in this section, you have a lot of plants, but these rocks provide a relief to your eye so you don't get overwhelmed. And we actually love using stone in the garden because it's a different texture as well.
It's also a little bit less space that you have to weed.
Yes. Yeah, and you might have a nice rock in your garden. It's a high possibility. Design can be really overwhelming. Like, where do you start? You just have like a blank space and you're like, oh man, like, I know my favorite color is purple, but I don't know, right? Yeah. So if we kind of take these rules and can start somewhere, like, okay, I have like this much space. I have these needs, so that when you make a plan, you feel really confident in your plan, because all this takes time and money, right? And hard work. So if I'm gonna plant a plant, I'm gonna wanna know it's one I like, it's gonna live, right? It's gonna work in that space, and it's gonna contribute to my goal.
Yeah, it's an investment.
Totally.
Investment of time and money.
Exactly. Yeah. And we always say too that when you're in your space, you can kind of shop in your own backyard too, because a lot of us have things that we might not know what they are, or they may not work in one place, but they might work in another part of your design. So again, if you have your plan, you say, I want this area to be shady, this area over there is shady, so I'm just gonna bring the plants from A to B, and I don't have to, get anything.
Megan, thank you for all of these wonderful tips on how people can make their garden look beautiful. Thanks for helping us get growing.
Thank you, and we'll see everybody at the garden.
What can I purchase today? What do I have to put something back if I want to, what do I need to sacrifice today to put food on my table to make it last until I can come back again?
Well, this mom and food security advocate says rising prices mean tough choices at the grocery store. That feature story is just ahead. Well, the cost of food continues to climb. Some families are doing their best to roll with the punches, while others are forced to make difficult decisions and do without. Even making supper staples like beef stew costs much more than it used to. The Signal's Amanda Gear met with a mom willing to talk about the difficult realities of higher food prices.
We're at Halloway's Value Grocer, and I'm with Kayla Dillon from League, and we're going to go pick up the ingredients we need for a beef stew. I read the vital signs report that came out from the Harris Center, and one of the statistics is that to make a pot of beef stew, it's up by 43% in the last 5 years. So I want to put that theory to test and see how much it costs us.
We see local residents struggling, and we're often seeing people come in and finding it difficult to have the money to buy what they need.
Need a garlic. Yeah, garlic. And we need a salt and a pepper. All right, we got our groceries. Now let's go make some soup. And now we're at the Lethbridge Recreation Center where we're going to make our soup. So Kayla, tell me a bit about why we're making soup together.
So I am a member of League, and what that is a lived and living experience advisory group. We're just regular people. We are the people that you walk by at grocery stores, and we all have our own different experiences with food poverty. And I think that now more than ever, it's really crucial for us to exist, because we give people a face and a name, and it makes you understand when you hear stories that you're not alone in this world, you know, you're not alone in feeling this. And I find, because I'm from St. John's originally, so I have the experience, my own personal experiences in St. John's. But then when I moved here in 2018, it's a whole new bunch of barriers as well. So that's where I'm really passionate about the work that we do with League, because I think now more than ever, there's so many people who are struggling that were never struggling before.
Absolutely.
And it's a new experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, last year alone, there was over 15,000 people that visited food banks around the province. So I think that's a great indicator of the increasing cost of food, the increased cost of living. You know, this form of a crisis that we're all kind of facing.
Yeah.
Even folks with a double income, you
Yes.
know, are struggling and having to visit food banks and find alternative methods. So what are the barriers that you see and that you hear about that are creating this type of food insecurity within communities?
I think the biggest thing that I hear a lot of is having the access to food. Because I mean, I hear stories all the time of, you know, families with no vehicles, or families with one vehicle and a spouse is working, and just being able to get to the food in the first place is one of the biggest struggles. Once you get there, getting there is the first hurdle you climb, and then once you're there, it's the matter of, what can I purchase today? Do I have to put something back if I want to, you know, what do I need to sacrifice today to put food on my table to make it last until I can come back again? Right?
Yeah. Not to get too personal and don't feel obligated to answer, but what types of things have you been experiencing within your family? Do you have to make like budgetary cuts? Do you have to decide whether you're going to put something back on the shelf or be able to buy? Yeah,
100%. I have 4 children, so my kids range from the ages of 4 to 15. My 15-year-old could probably eat us out of the house if we gave him free roam. But the struggle we have is that I have 2 children that are in school age, and one is going to be entering the school system next year. Being able to provide adequate meals and balanced meals gets harder and harder. And for me, I struggle a lot even going to the grocery store because I find it really overwhelming. And you go in and you things you bought regularly for years all of a sudden are very expensive, more so than before, and it just seems like it continues to climb. So I know in my personal life, when I go to get groceries, I find myself sacrificing fresh produce for frozen or for canned goods. And while my kids don't necessarily mind the adjustment, for me personally, that's not where I would have liked to provide for my kids. I like to have fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, as much as I can.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we've definitely had to put things back or had to just completely dismiss certain things. And that is probably our biggest struggle is, between, we had 2 small kids in the midst of a pandemic. We tried the, beans and ways of making things affordable for us. But I found that it just, as even more so as of lately, it's harder to get in there and get what you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And, we're talking about accessibility, affordability, just the basics that we require to eat. For example, all of this costs us over $50 to make a pot of soup. How can we change this? How can we make food more accessible for people? It's kind of outrageous to think about that the cost of a pot of soup is up by 43%, a basic meal, a staple meal in many homes, right?
Exactly.
So what can we do?
And you're right, like for us in our home, like a vegetable soup or a beef stew is definitely a common crutch that we'd have in our house, especially in between, you get in between your payday. So that's that was our favorite, you're getting your vegetables, you're getting a pot of soup is so great, but that's the thing, it's making it accessible.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I also read in the Vital Signs report that came out from the Harris Center, the local mom and pop grocery stores aren't just a place where people can buy food, right?
That's right.
They're literally a lifeline for some because like you mentioned, what if you have transportation issues, you have mobility issues? What happens when these smaller grocers and independent grocery stores disappear? What happens to the folks in those towns with no accessibility, right?
That is what worries me the most, is not having the access to the food. Who's going to go hungry? And this is one of the big things with League is that food is a right and it's not a privilege. So no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter if you have a one person home or 10 children, everyone is feeling the strain, and it's just so much more needs to be done and so much more awareness needs to be shouted from the rooftops because it isn't just what you would expect. It's everyone. It's your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Right. In the big picture of it all, we need to make the awareness and put faces to the stories because people will say, oh, well, you can pinpoint who is going through food poverty. You can't. You don't know who you're walking by and what they're struggling with in the run of a day.
Yep.
And someone who may have it all together could be crumbling on the inside because they haven't eaten in 2 days, right?
That's a powerful message.
If you don't ask for the help, it's very hard to get the help. And I think that's another struggle a lot of people face, is the shame of asking.
Yeah.
People are afraid to ask for help because they're afraid to be rejected. But yeah, like the big picture is the awareness. If we don't know, we can't learn, we can't make changes, right? And I think that education is the key.
Absolutely.
Here we go. Shield the mess.
Oh my gosh, look at this.
That is going to be so delicious.
Beautiful.
So colorful.
So colorful. All right, let's get that back on the boil now. All right, let's get it on the stove now to finish it off, and we can put our peas in. Now, before we eat our soup this evening, I just want to ask you, what are some ways that regular folks can help remove the barriers to food insecurity, especially in rural Newfoundland?
I think the best thing that people should remember is that your community you're going to be your saving grace. So I think that the most important thing that people can realize is that you need to reach out, check on your neighbors, check on, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Bringing everyone back together again, I think, is the key to the starting point to helping fix this problem.
And then you throw it out to the tin, And if you got a wet fly and you got to flick it back and forth, you're going to be going 10 and 2.
Well, 10 and 2, it's not just for the steering wheel. You can also use that rule of thumb for your reel. Just ahead on Here and Now, we're chasing the salmon with Charlie.
Salmon grabs. Hello, my name is Charlie White. Today I'm out fishing for Atlantic salmon on Saw West River here on the west coast of Newfoundland, and I'm at Jack's Rock. The salmon season starts on the 1st of June and ends on 7th of September. For me, the best time to fish salmon is first thing in the morning. You're going to need a fly rod and a fly reel, floating line, wet and dry flies, a vest, either hip boots, waders, or guide pants like I'm wearing. You need a salmon license. You can get a senior's license, a single license, and you can get a family license. And all those licenses come with only 2 tags, a red tag and a green tag. The red tags can be used on all Class 2 rivers, and the green tags must be used on Class 4 and above. The maximum allowable length of a salmon you're allowed to keep here is 63 centimeters long. Make sure you check your regulations, because some rivers only allow you to keep a 60 centimeter long salmon. When you're casting your line, technique is everything, right? Normally you start off your cast with your rod tipped down parallel to the water. You slowly start bringing it up. You bring it up to about the 2 o'clock position, and then you throw it out to the 10. And if you got a wet fly and you got to flick it back and forth, you're going to be going 10 and 2. And pulling line, it just helps you keep that fly up off the water behind you and off the water in front of you. It makes for a nice smooth cast. Your timing is right, your arm drops, and that fly shoots out. And you should have nice tight loops. Once the salmon grabs it, you want to set the hook, and then you want to try to get the salmon onto the reel as fast as possible. Once you got your salmon onto the reel, then you're going to let the rod and reel do all the work. A good rule of thumb is to keep your butt 90 degrees to the fish. So the further away your salmon is, the further your rod comes up. The closer your salmon comes, the more you tip your rod down, because you want that rod to have a little bit of flex. Good fishing etiquette here on the west coast of Newfoundland is when you come to a pool, you normally start off at the head of the pool and work your way down through. You make a cast, take a half step. Make a cast, take a half step. And that way you get to work the entire pool. And you can put multiple people into a rotation. The one thing to remember is before you go anywhere and do any fishing or hunting or snaring or whatever, make sure you read the rules and regulations so you know exactly what's legal and what's not. So in a nutshell, that's how you fish for salmon. I hope you try it out for yourself. But if you're looking for any more salmon fishing adventures, you can check out my YouTube channel, NL Ghost Wolf. And remember, safety first. Always let somebody know where you are, where you're going, and when you plan on returning. Until next time.
Well, WestJet passengers continue to face some travel frustrations following a weekend strike that later ended. The airline expects a handful of flights to be canceled today. The two-day strike resulted in the grounding of more than 1,000 flights, affecting 100,000 passengers. Some were stranded outside the country. The company says it's in peak travel season, so there's limited availability for rebooking on WestJet and other carriers. The airline says if a flight was delayed or canceled, it will make every effort to get customers to their destination, but some say that getting in touch with WestJet customer service was nearly impossible. Well, voters in the United Kingdom are going to the polls tomorrow, and all indicators are pointing to a major change in government. The CBC's Briar Stewart takes a look at the last day of campaigning.
It was Lewis flat 8, undecided.
Across the UK, the final push for votes.
Okay, right.
In the town of Watford, volunteers canvass for the local Labour candidate.
Tories have not been good for the United Kingdom, and that's the essence of it.
And they say that's what they hear from the voters they managed to speak with on the doorstep. This constituency is a real priority for the Labour Party because they believe there's enough support to win a seat here, which they haven't done since Tony Blair was Prime Minister. Watford is a commuter town just outside of London. It's considered a bellwether riding. Voters here usually elect whichever party ends up forming the government.
Everybody I'm talking to, it seems like they want a change.
I think I would vote for the Labour Party. I think they are more geared towards looking after working class people.
Labour leader Keir Starmer is on the brink of becoming Britain's next Prime Minister.
We are fighting for every vote.
Polls point to Labour winning a significant majority. Even some Conservatives believe their scandal-plagued party will lose big, which is why in a last-ditch effort, Boris Johnson popped up on the campaign trail, throwing his support behind Rishi Sunak, the man who helped push him out of the Prime Minister's office.
You like pepperoni?
Sunak spent his final hours on the campaign trail trying to appeal to families, but his time in power is almost certainly fleeting. The big question, observers say, is what happens next.
we in this country face really serious economic problems. If Labour don't manage to do something about that, the danger is that the next election will be an even more angry election with more and more people voting against the mainstream and looking for alternatives.
Because while Labour is poised to take over the government, it will also inherit all of the country's problems too. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Well, one of the most active volcanoes in the world has sprung back to life. Wow, Mount Etna in Italy started spewing smoke and lava yesterday. A new crater opened up with lots of activity and lava flows. The specific part of the mountain at about 3,000 meters had been quiet for about 4 years. Mount Etna's eruptions are unusually explosive because of the chemical makeup of the magma. The 3,300-meter high mountain in Sicily is Europe's tallest active volcano. Well, a growing wildfire has forced thousands of people out of their homes in Northern California. The flames are being fueled by extremely hot, dry conditions. Helicopters and water bombers are battling the flames from the air, while more than 1,400 firefighters are working on the ground. More than 13,000 people have been told to leave their homes. Officials say the Thompson fire has burned about 2,000 hectares and is 0% contained. A state of emergency has been declared. More weather news is on the way. We'll be right back.
Well, Hurricane Beryl is bearing down on Jamaica as it continues its charge across the Caribbean. The Category 4 storm has sustained winds topping 200 kilometers an hour. Jamaica has closed all 3 of its international airports and imposed a curfew. Beryl is expected to cross the Cayman Islands later tonight. Meanwhile, Mexico has also posted a number of hurricane warnings, and that will be later in the week.
Wow. Pretty frightening stuff. It seems pretty early in the season.
Yeah, Beryl has broken a number of records. Earliest Category 4 hurricane to form at this far in the Caribbean, and then eventually became a Category 5 hurricane. So number of records. Let's take a look at what's going on right now with Beryl. It does look like the eye of the hurricane is tracking just south of Jamaica. This is the current location. Actually, if I go a little bit further forward there, you can see the current location. So just south at the moment, topping out at 270 kilometer per hour winds, still a Category 4 storm with central pressure down to 959 millibars. So very, very strong storm. Definitely seeing hurricane conditions in Jamaica at the moment. And as I mentioned, we're going to see the system continue to track towards the Cayman Islands and eventually the Yucatan Peninsula as still a very strong storm. Category 2 hurricane expected by early Friday morning. We're looking at winds still gusting about 160 kilometers per hour. That will cross the Yucatan Peninsula and eventually weaken, but it does look like some forecast models have it strengthening yet again before it makes a second landfall in parts of northern Mexico. There still anywhere from 100 to 120 kilometers per hour, and that will happen as we get through the weekend. So as far as our forecast is concerned, our long-range forecast is concerned, we are eventually starting to see some of the nicer weather, at least the warmer temperatures as we head through the end of next week, or the end of the weekend rather, into the beginning of next week. Some showers possible for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland as we get into Friday. Temperatures finally warming up after Thursday is going to be chilly, but we should sit around 22 to 23 degrees as we get into next week. Also, more humidity in the forecast. At this point, the weekend, Saturday looking pretty decent. We should see some sunshine, and Sunday we'll see the return of some of those showers around 22 degrees. Our overnight lows in the teens. Plants will be happy, and by Monday we'll see some clearing skies as well. But again, you'll start the day with a little bit of some rain showers. For central Newfoundland, really warming up. Temperatures in the mid to upper 20s for next week. Well, the end of the weekend and then beginning of next week. Definitely dry for the most part. Some showers possible by Sunday. And by Monday, that sunshine will return about 27 degrees. A little cooler for western Newfoundland. We'll see some showers late day Saturday. And then it looks like it will be a rainy Sunday for western Newfoundland with a temperature around 21 degrees. So we'll see a bit of a drop, rebounding slightly by the time we get into Monday with a temperature near 23 degrees. Now for Labrador, at least the east, you're looking at some showers for Friday. Saturday looking really lovely, 24 degrees. But again, you'll note your humidity will be on the rise as we head into next week. 22 degrees for your Sunday with some showers, and Monday looking at 26 and sunshine. Now for western Labrador, overall, your temperatures will warm up as we get into Monday, back up into the 20s with some showers returning for Monday. Our photo today, Burgeo. It has been beautiful as far as paddle weather goes. And this photo from Julie, she always sends us great shots. Definitely a calm day in Burgeo. We appreciate that. Nice day for a paddle. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, we'd love to see them. You can send them to my Facebook page. That's a great place to send them, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Not a cloud in the sky, just gorgeous. Thank you so much for that. And I'm keeping my eye on that Saturday forecast.
So am I.
I really hope that that holds, because that looks like it's going to be a really nice day in the east. Yeah, and such great weather in the west and central. My goodness.
Lucky ducks.
Yes, for sure. All right, well, that is it for us. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Hope you can join us again tomorrow.